What's good, YouTube? Back with another VOD review. We're going to be looking at Levi De Weerd, who played Emre Yilmaz in the most recent edivise final. I'm going to be breaking down what Emre and Levi, mainly Levi, on what he's been doing to get such success this year. So let's get into it. I believe this was a decent game. Emre's sick, Levi's sick. This is like an unreal final. But let's get into it. Let's see what Levi does. So once again, Levi triggering players early. So what Levi's doing here, basically he's played started Rolfo left back and played Mendy right back. So he's just waiting for them guys to flip and wait. So he's just taking his time here off his kickoff. Now his team's set up. His right back hasn't gone over there yet, so we're going to be seeing what he does over into this position right now. So just taking his time, waiting. And once again, we see this a lot in so much pro play, and I think like the best of doing this so often is the triggers with the left back. So he punches it in, and when I say punch, I usually mean as like a driven pass. He driven pass into his Rolfo from his Mendy, and then from here he's triggered his Mendy to run. So when he turns with Rolfo, he has an overlapping run, and then he also can potentially use it as bait or use Haaland from there. See if I can up the quality of this as well. Nice, as best it can get. So as you see here, his Mendy's running. Now he finds Haaland, and he just waits just a little bit. And now, as we mentioned, he triggered this Mendy earlier. He's not using Mendy on balance. He uses his right back on balanced, which is Rolfo. But now he's got to this play. When he hit Haaland, he now has an option of potentially playing Mendy, and now it's creating them question marks, what we always speak about on your attack. That is the worst question mark of all time. Question mark of what is he going to do? Is he going to go into Mendy, or is he just going to go back and then take his time and go down the right if his right side was free? So, yeah, in the attack, it's all about just creating these question marks in your build-up and what you're going to be doing in your build-up. And then once he hits into Mendy, he triggers his Pateles and his Haaland to run. So when he runs down the wing with Mendy, and the opponent has to then decide to either go over to Mendy or cover the runners. And now once again creating the question marks of, is he going to come inside or is he going to take wing? And then also once he's took wing, what has he got in either options? So yeah, here, as I said, he's making that question mark. So now player locks to create that even more question mark. Keeps baiting that he's going to go into the right forward, or to his right centre mid. Slowly then works it into his centre mid. And we see here as well when he, let's see if we go forward just slightly. So yeah, use the player locks cancels to kind of just bait and just see like what he could get inside. And then once he decides to come inside, if we watch when he goes from Haaland here into his Hullet, he triggers his Haaland here to run, which potentially gives him an option for the L1 triangle to go over the top and play for either a knockdown or bring the ball down and then get himself into like a dangerous like area within the box around this range. And obviously it's going to be quite messy, and hopefully you can either get a rebound or you can just get a clear pass over. So if you watch this, plays it back, he triggers his Haaland as we see here as he's got his hand up, running now into that space to gives him that potential option with Hullet to just play it over the top if he fancies it. Especially when in this with the restrictions, people were using like Cuadrado and Mendy, Haaland was going to have a field day when it comes to headers. He doesn't use it, uses it as bait, takes his time. He triggered his left back to go again. No, takes his time, finds Mendy. I think we're going to see a switch come through. And then as we speak about when you get into these areas, we kind of, as I said, I call it like zone 1 and zone 2. Go here. Zone 1 is this one. Not that. That looks like 2. That's a 1, and this is zone 2. Once we're in this position, we are assessing, first of all, do we have anything inside in these ranges to pass it early. If we can find these in early, it's better to then, instead of going down line and then trying to find them. And the reason for that is because then it gives the opponent no time to be able to pull back these midfielders. If you push down line and go into this like sort of area, the defense will be able to pull back, and then when you hit it back to the edge to De Jong, the defense is like on a low block, like a line here and a line here, and it's super hard to break through. So that's why sometimes you want to try and break in a lot earlier around these ranges. So, and then also you have another option, as we always speak about, you do have the cross option into this spot from Rolfo, L1 square, play for a knockdown, which to be honest with you is like the #1 option to at this current time, the current meta. So see here, he's pushing down line to see what he's got inside. Just waiting, as he's got nothing. He then eventually finds it back to edge. And as we always speak about as well, when you find this pass to the centre mid, you either have a driven pass into this guy, into your left forward, into your one more to the centre mid, or also one over to the left centre mid. What I would personally say is your go-to play is if you get the ball into like this range, you kind of want to miss the centre mid and hit a driven pass all the way across. And this is the main reason of this is because it gives you better timings when you're trying to use the opponent's AI. Because as we see, the opponent's AI all shifted over to the wing. So if you come over and go all the way across, the timing of the opponent's running over back over will be obviously less compared to if you went into Frankie and then into those spaces. So using the opponent AI also against itself is also super important when we're playing. So now we find it into Hullet, and then obviously we speak about when you go into Hullet, you have multiple options of finesse, driven pass into the attackers, or even play for the knockdown. So as I said, we go into like this range of Hullet, using Hullet obviously, and we'll find this a lot. We either have a finesse option, we either have an L1 square, we have a driven pass as well into either Haaland or Rolfo, or even seeing if we can find something into this gap if Mbappe comes open. And obviously Levy went for the finesse options. Let's see how Levy approaches the press and how he wants to do. So not much second man pressing, just kind of taking this time, kind of cutting off at all times the next forward pass. So as you see here, he brought over his Mbappe to come over to this space to be able to block off this, forcing the opponent to go back into here and probably have to rework a switch. And Levy is very comfortable allowing the opponent to switch. But as we see here, Emre triggers Mendy, so now he creates the question mark of what am I going to do in this area. Now Mbappe is out, so how do we approach this? We switch to our defender, our right back, and obviously the original play was because Haaland was running, we're going to have to track Haaland, but once he realises that he calls Haaland short, now Levy's assessing, okay, I need to be able to get tight for when he does make this touch and pass to Haaland if he goes there. And it looks like from the animation we're about to see that he does go into there. And then we see the great read from him. So he set himself up originally to worry about the track and the run, because the track and the run was the most important thing. If you don't track the runs, people just press an L1 triangle all the way over the top, and then you're always going to concede. But Levy was worrying about that and then realised Haaland got called short, and then he was able to put himself in a position to be able to stop both. So Levy then finds Mbappe off that pass, and he also triggers his Rolfo instantly off that pass as well when he hits into Mbappe. And then when you find Mbappe, you have a lot of options. You can either like try and take this, hold up. You can either take this space, or you can work it inside and then maybe go into here, or waiting for that overlapping run to come into play. But it's important that he's done this trigger of Rolfo to create a potential option later on in this build-up, as we'll see here. And it also pushes the AI off, as we see. Like, look at the AI line now. Because of that trigger come through, look how deep that line is. And now we look at like the box as such, this square, the pockets. And if you can break this line with a driven pass, you're instantly on the opponent's back line and causing a lot of question marks on what you're going to do. Levy plays it safe, goes up to the left back, taking his time as he's waiting for his players to come into play. Hits Hullet. Once again, he will trigger Mendy to run. So if he wants to, he can either eventually play for something for Mendy, or he can just use it as a decoy and work it all the way over. And it's super important when you play at the top level to do these decoy runs and not use the run sometimes, just to create the question mark and make your opponent actually think when it hits Hullet, what is the opponent going to do? And you have to then be forced to make a decision. So as you see here, he takes his time, waits for this run to develop from Mendy. So now when he gets into this spot, he can pretend to use it. Realises he can't get it, so he's going to go back to his centre back and now moves it out to the right back. And then once again, we're into the two zones. What we like, as I say, zone 1, zone 2, and we're assessing in this spot. Once again, here, here, here. Also, we need to assess what are they doing with their defender. Are they coming over? Are they staying inside? That also will depend on what we want to do with Rolfo. To be honest with you, if they're cutting this off, this pass into Mbappe, you kind of want to push this line, so they have to then run Mendy back, and then they should either come over across, and then you can work it around them, or if they keep covering inside, then we can either just basically go back into the centre mid or play a ball over to the top. But you kind of want, I always say, it's do the opposite of what your opponent does. So if they cover wing, you come inside. If they cover inside, you take wing. And then that will always make you never be stuck in any decision making. So as you see here, he pushed wing this time, and now he was coming over with his Mendy. Levy did an L1 speed boost to take wing, and now, as we spoke about, we've got this pass. But we have now this pass to Mbappe if we would like it, or we can keep going with Rolfo and see if something opens up back post to Haaland. So yeah, as I say, play a lot, baits it, seeing, and then once we get to this spot, are we assessing what's here at the back post, if we can get any an L1 square, but Pateles decides to run into the box instead. As you see, he was working for it. Okay. Could have been a little bit cleaner and better decision from Levy. To be honest with you, he did really good at assessing at this spot on what to do. I think he does a really good decision here. He honestly, once you get into this spot, I always say you might as well just hit it inside, because then you can take it, and then you have a one-on-one. And if you're one of the best players in the world, you should trust yourself in a one-on-one attacking scenario. But what he does, he takes the time, realises he can't get it across, he can't get it into Haaland or anything, so he goes back to the edge. He triggers. He wanted to trigger his Hullet. He actually triggered his company, but he wanted to trigger his Hullet because, as we saw before, his Hullet was kind of in this range. So if he triggered his Hullet now will take this range and won't be covered off by this forward. So just that little trigger allows this run from Hullet to come in, so you don't get caught off by people blocking the lane with the attackers. So it gets into this spot, and as we speak about what Nicholas was doing here, was basically looking for an L1 square up into Haaland. Because it's so crowded, you should be able to get a cheeky knockdown and then potentially get a shot off if obviously the right player opens. But as you see here, L1 squares it, gets the knockdown. I think he went to go to Mbappe, but it goes over to Rolfo instead. And nothing comes open. I would say as well, bear in mind, Emre and Levy, they're teammates outside of the Eredivisie. They both play for Team Hullet, so they probably know each other's tendencies very, very well. So, yeah, let's see how Levy, obviously, once again, he's covering the wings, constantly just trying to cut off the next lane and the next forward pass. So as we see here, we go back just slightly. We watch here. So instantly he's on his left winger, his left mid as such in his defence, to come over to cover this. And then once Emre touches inside, he gets onto his Mbappe to cover the switch, which then forces Emre to keep playing down the side. So as you see here, got his patellas into decent position to cover down this if he decides to go here, and then he gets onto his Hullet, who he thought it was probably his Haaland, to be able to cover this middle off, which then, like at the end of the day, Emre only has one option. It's either to switch it off to here or go back here and kind of wait for things to develop. But it's a really good press and quite easy press as well, what comes through Levi, but he does it so efficiently. So as again, Emre decided to take wing, but he put his patellas in a good position, so he can then also block off line if he wanted to with patellas, which he does. And then he was covering down, and then he forces his opponent to turn back, and that's what you want. You want your force your opponent to keep turning back. Then he finds back into his Quadrado, as we said, like he was going to go back to his centre back, then we rework it to his Quadrado. What Levi does, he wants to block off this passing lane, and the best way to do that is through your left mid and right mids, because then you keep your centre mids in position. So if they do decide to like rework it in here, you can just press either with these guys or these guys and making it super compact in the middle. So yeah, cutting off the passing lane there with patellas, which then he gets rewarded for it and wins the ball super high up. But it takes his time. He triggers once again, triggers his Mendy to run. He actually triggered his patellas as well when he went back from patellas into Mendy. We see like him as she's been triggered there. So yeah. So but he runs back because obviously that's where the space is. Takes his time, kind of seeing what's opening up. Player locks De Jong to come short. Now he switches it out to the left side. Taking his time, triggered his Mendy once again, and then found that driven pass from centre mid into left forward, and his Mendy's obviously going to run, but he does have also patellas out here, so I'm assuming he's going to work it out to patellas and then kind of slow things down. So he gets it out to patellas, and then we go once again. Takes the space and then slows things down, and now he's set up and he's onto the edge of the opponent. So it's super important that he was really direct in the moments he needed to be, but then he also now he's like assessing, okay, now I'm on the edge, let me slow things down, let's make the opponent make a mistake of some sort. So once again, he's kind of waiting, triggers his Mendy, but then gets caught with his patellas, because to be honest with you, Emre did really well. Once again as well. So we lost, as I said, we lost the ball. We could do a little bit better, but yeah, that happens, right? Like, you're playing the best. Like, honestly, once he turns back, he should just hit Hullet, and then he could switch it, or he could have gone from like Hullet, took this space, and then, do you know what I mean? There could have been so many different options, but he is also playing Emre, who's one of the best in the world. But what happens as well, what Emre does, when he has it here with Mbappe, he triggers two players once again. He triggers his R9 and his De Bruyne. But I think what he originally done was when he passed it into Mbappe, he triggered this right centre mid, and then when it hit into Mbappe, then he triggered his R9. And now he's constantly obviously got two runs. And now Levi, originally he wanted to try and get De Jong in here so he could try and block off that pass, but now he's obviously got to consider, okay, the runs are forward, I need to like consider that, but also I need to probably maybe apply some pressure on the ball. So as I said, brought in that De Jong into that space to try and cut off this passing lane, so which should make him have to slow down with Mbappe as such, but obviously it doesn't always work with that, because he's going to find into like Hullet here, and then this run is still going. But Levy's done everything he could and kind of cut out the main worry, which was R9, through the use of De Jong, cutting into this space and then switching to Lucio to defend any like further run if De Jong doesn't get into that passing lane. And then once this goes back into here, Levi knows this guy was triggered, so now he's got to get onto company and cut off to this. Because at the end of the day, R9 is not really a worry here, because there's no real straight direct passing lane to there, as well as it's so common. People trigger a run and then they just use an L1 triangle with the midfielders, right? So obviously we see that. Gets out, he dropped his company in, and now we get the ball under control. Triggers his patellas instantly as soon as he was on Hullet to run, to give him a further option here. So if he basically allows him to not get stuck, but also have an option out here if need be. So yeah, he doesn't get stuck in the middle. So let's see here, patellas coming, now finds, hits it to patellas, triggers his Haaland to run as well instantly. So now this should, as we see his backline here, for Emre, it should drop back now here, leaving a bit more space in this sort of range for Levi to kind of really set his tempo again. So once again, good tempo from Levi to kind of set things up and get the opponent's AI back. And then once he's into a position of comfort, he likes to maybe slow down the tempo and kind of play his way. So what Levi did there, instead of, and the reason we don't see the AI drop off, is what Levi did. He triggered his Haaland to run, and then he creative runs Haaland off to the side. So if you creative run, the AI doesn't drop back like we spoke about with normal L1 triggers. With a creative run, obviously, that gives you a bit more control on what you're wanting to do, and gives you some nice like ideas and plays what you can do off the left and mid. So as we see, a creative run here, which now pushes Haaland off to the side, and then Levy's basic plan is to take the wing here. That's like basically take the wing, see if he can bite this Quadrado out of play, and then work it into Haaland. But we see some good defending here from Emre, but he hits an L1 triangle to see if it goes through, and it doesn't. So good use of the creative run, good creative idea, but obviously Emre defends it really well. And then once again, what we're seeing, when the ball's on certain players off certain passes, Levy's got like an auto like setup. Okay, I'm going to cover the wings. So as we see here, if we go just slightly back, as soon as this ball goes from left back to left centre back, as you see here, like we're covering the middle. As soon as it goes into Van Dijk, usually the set thing for a lot of people is to switch out to their right back, right? Because that's whoever they got balanced. So what Levy's doing is instantly getting on his patellas to cover out there, so he doesn't have that free switch out. So really quick and like good understanding of Levy when to be on certain players. So see here, once obviously he's got that covered and realizes like Emre's noticed that he's on patellas. You know, it's obviously he's going to try and like play for this. We're switching and we're trying to now block off the midfield and like these type of passes. They're probably going to always have some sort of pass through, but yeah, we want to try and make it as hard as possible for them to always find the next pass. So he works it back out to his left back, and now with Mbappe, we're going to try and drop him into this space to try and cover down the wing, double support on the wing, so we're not left in a one-on-one situation. So as you see here, we're not getting onto our defender here to apply the... We're not going on our Rolfo and applying pressure here. We're actually using our Mbappe, who he was on a second ago, to come in to create a double up. And then also, if you will see here, when he's on Mbappe, he is going to apply pressure onto Haaland here. He's also going to try and cut off this passing lane so he doesn't have an easy one and forces him to just go back and then have to reset. And as we spoke about, when he goes to that left back, he's probably going to switch to his... Levy's going to probably switch to his Tellers. So, as I said, passes it back. And I said, preset things, what always people do, either from the left back or the left centre-back passes, depending obviously where it is. They're getting onto that switch. And as we see here, instantly, as soon as it's gone back from the left forwards to the left back, Levy's getting onto his patellas and instantly getting ready to cover down for that switch.
So I'm surprised the fact that PSV didn't even change for the...
Yeah, locked up with Mendy. I think Levy didn't trust his own read, and then he went on to Mendy to realise to try and get over, but he again gets locked on with Mendy, unfortunately. But this is really nice as well. So, as I said, it was really good understanding from Levy when to like cover the switch, and then he kind of didn't trust himself, to be honest with you. So he went here, he goes back, Levy goes on Pateles, but I think I think in his head, let me get rid of that circle. He thinks he can't get over. So what he's planning to do is go on Mendy because he thinks he's up because obviously Mendy's closer. So when he does the switch, Mendy should be able to get to the ball faster. But I think he probably could have just got Pateles. And the problem is sometimes when you run the left back over here, or your right back to cover the wing, you get locked on, and then it leaves this huge space in behind, and you basically can't do anything about it because you lock on with Mendy. And then it just leaves Mbappe free in the middle, as we'll see here. So you see, like, that Mendy gets locked on, and then he's in a stuck position. And then what we see, how this cross came about, super important, because like a lot of people will probably play, and like I never get that type of run from R9. As soon as this is on Mbappe, he's triggering his R9, who I always speak about making sure you have somebody triggered. One, because this makes the AI have to come back off this line, leaving more space in this pocket on the edge if he doesn't decide to do the cross. But he, yeah, as I said, he instantly triggers his R9 to run. And then we see here, he's kind of like originally off that ball roll, it's like, oh, he might have played it, but obviously his R9 was too far away. But then he's done this extra turn back, and now this leaves R9 open, and Levy's obviously not expecting the cross, which you kind of, as I said, you wouldn't really expect once he's turned back an extra little touch. You would think he's just going straight into De Jong, right? But he decoys it really nicely, and then R9 goal. Good goal, but as I said, I think Levy, he did the right reads in such, but it was just maybe the wrong execution. So let's see how it goes. So Haaland once again on the left, on his left forward, triggering that left back to go, as we speak a lot about. We've seen Tex do it a lot. We've seen Nicholas do it a lot. Just because they're on stay back, and we even see Neat do it against Nicholas, just because they're on stay back does not mean you don't trigger them as such, because now it gives you an extra run, basically. And then once he finds from like Haaland to Mendy, he triggers his Haaland to run. And the reason you do this as well is because now, instead of Haaland like occupying this spot, Haaland will now get into obviously this area, which will make either like you as a defender have to worry about like this like extra space, right? So it's super important that you do this trigger, and then it also, as I said, it leaves your Haaland in the positions you actually want him to be in and your attackers to be in, rather than always like too far back. So as we go here, he triggers his Mendy once again when he hits it into the centre back. To once again, it could give you an option if you want to use it. And the best way, and I always say this, like I'll give you some advice on how I would use the left back on the opposite side of was on stay back to trigger, is you want to kind of do it when you know you're going to work it inside or go back to your centre back. Then that's where you want to trigger your left back, because then you don't ever need it as recycle. I wouldn't do it when you need them there to kind of pass it and work it out of the back. You kind of want to use it once you've progressed, or you know you're going to either switch it or work it into the middle, because then it's going to give you an option when you've either worked it in the middle or gone back. So as here we've gone for a switch, kind of just taking our time here, seeing if we can get anything forward, but Emre does a really good job. And then Rolfo's going, and then we just take this little space with De Jong out wide with an R1 dribble, and now we trigger Rolfo to run, and now we're going to potentially have an option down the wing, but I would assume we're not going to take it. Yeah, we're going to just keep going with De Jong, work it inside. Some really nice play here. Now once again, we get into these areas, zone 1, zone 2, assessing, can we get it inside here? Can we get it into this area for an R1 square? Can we go line, play for the cross, or can we go line and keep going? Do you know what I mean? There's loads of different options and loads of different things you can do. It's just being decisive when you get into these zones is the super important part. But you can kind of assess in them different zones on what you can and can't do. So we see here, comes inside early to Mbappe. R1's forward, nice step over. Now he finds it back to Rolfo. Once again, we have a lot of plays what we can do from Rolfo. We can either cross it into this area to Haaland. We can maybe rework it down the wing if we would like to, because then we can either see if we can then get into like R9. We could go from R9 from Rolfo, or we could work it edge and then once again work it into that areas. Levy decides to work it back into R9. Good speed boost. Player lock to try and get his Bateles into a nicer position for this, because obviously if you don't player lock it you get this sort of sometimes where your player gets stuck in behind. But with a player lock, you can kind of give yourself an option of somebody running for you.
Shaky stuff there.
Once again, we're not getting on our defenders. Super important. You see, like, Levi doesn't get on his like right back to apply the pressure here. He's getting onto his midfielder to kind of cover into these areas to try and then stop the opponent's passes. Get like just basically being able to just go like forward, like basically go like this. Like he's trying to stop that like bang 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 pass. He's kind of making like he was like, okay, like I want you to like turn back, go slow, and then I might be able to press in this like in this sort of square sometime. Oh, not this. Sorry. In this square sometimes, or I'm just forcing you to slow down, and then you're playing at my tempo rather than me then playing to whatever you want to do. So yeah, now he switches it, gets onto his patellas to kind of come over. He's got to try and cut off obviously this pass and this pass. So we'll see how he obviously deals with that by being on patellas. So he runs over patellas all the way. So he kind of, his plan there, as we see, he was just kind of running patellas into precision, stopping that forward pass, and trying to slow down Cuadrado in his play. So he does, again, can't just do whatever he wants. And then also using like his Haaland and De Jong to eventually kind of cut off these passes from Cuadrado into here, into here, into here. And the only thing really now Emre has is Mbappe down the wing. She does really nice, finds an L1 triangle, but we're set up for it because we haven't pulled our wing backs out. So super important, using our midfielders to help and build up into our attack. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let's talk about that real quick. So as you see here, Emre triggers his right centre mid, works it back to his right back, and now he obviously when he hits his right back, he has a potential like German cross as such if he would like it, but also makes the opponent have to consider this obviously run from De Jong. So you see here, he drops off with company to kind of cover it, but now that leaves De Bruyne open, and then once again we're kind of stuck. Which one are we doing? And it's just these constant question marks. It's like this question mark, then this question mark, and then now he's got this question mark. Do you know what I mean? It was just from one trigger we was able to create like 3-4 different question marks in attack, and then we fight as he finds Kevin De Bruyne down wing. L1 squares obviously into Haaland, plays for a knockdown. You see all year now. So Levi goes wide, takes his time, and we see as well, like the Libertadores guys were doing, he triggered his patellas and then creative run him, and now he's also player locked it, so he gives himself an option down the wing off Mendy. He finds it. He triggered once again when that pass went from Mendy to patellas. He triggered his Mendy, as we can see through the animation with his hand up. So once again, giving himself that left back play if he would like to have that play. Taking the space to the right side. We know this player has been triggered, and he's eventually going to work for it. And that's what I say. You do these players and you do these triggers to create the question mark. Am I going to use it? Am I going to use it? We haven't really seen him use this left back overlap as the over top yet. And now eventually we've kind of done a little setup from like left back to centre mid to striker, left forward into the over the top, and now we eventually caught him. So these constant question marks is just constantly making your opponent think what you're going to do, and that's what Levy's done through the use of triggering his Mendy. And we see him do a big knock, does a ball roll, does a Travella, lovely, good decision making, really good. And as I said, it comes from that left back trigger, what we saw him do. Once again, getting on Pateles, dropping him into this range and this square, just to create the 2v2 and a double up on the defensive end. And once again, you see here, he's on Emre's on Cuadrado. He obviously, there's a potential play to Mbappe, but Levy's on his Pateles, cutting off that passing lane. so Emre doesn't have that, and he's once again forced to go back or play for a switch or just take his time. So yeah, as he switches, we're running over with our Mbappe, once again cutting this off. And as I said, we're constantly wanting to try and force our opponent to slow things down, and we take the yards on him from that. Once our Mbappe was in a decent enough position, we then tried to get on, well, what Levi tries to do is try to get on his midfield, on his attacker, sorry, to be able to then cut off these passes here, so he doesn't get the... So he's kind of like, he's cutting off the switches and the wing play, and then he's trying to cut off the middle play, which then makes Emre have to just keep slowing things down and just feel super uncomfortable when playing. So again, he's cutting off that passing lane with his Mbappe. We know he's triggered him, but he's cutting off the, like, if he wants to go to feet, he's cutting it off with Mbappe. And then once Mendy was maybe like 2 up, he would have probably switched to his defender. So once again, cutting off the middle here. Now he's getting onto his Mbappe because the left back's free. Then he's on his Mbappe. He's not going towards the ball as such when he's on Mbappe. He's just trying to cut in so he can cut off this space. That's super important. Like, I feel like a lot of people, they get it out to their left back, and what they do, they get on Mbappe and they just run, like, they go here, and by the time you've got over to Mendy, this whole, like, this pass is open, right? But Levi is, like, playing, like, the maths game as such, and he's gone for this route to cut off this pass, because that is obviously the threatening pass what a lot of people try and work. Now he's got. And then here, I think he's probably second man pressing his Rolfo, and then he's trying to pull in his De Jong into this spot. So we're cutting off this passing, and then once maybe he notices Emre like commits to this and takes this, or like maybe slows things down, he'll switch to his Rolfo to then defend Haaland on the one-on-one. So as you see here, turn back, then we switch to our Rolfo to be able to apply the pressure. Realise he's too far away, but actually our Mbappe's pretty close, so that we can pull him in. Once again, create that 2v2, that 2v1 on a defensive end. So instead of feeling like we're outnumbered from the like from people using 4-3-2-1, we're actually in a fair duel in a 2v2. And then we see there, he was trying to cut off Haaland with his Haaland, cut off the middle pass. Emre switches it, triggers his De Bruyne. Once again, obviously makes that question mark, is he going to play it? Finds Mbappe, but once again, we're not trying to give him anything, we're just... Ooh, that was a bad offside trap. But I love it, but... But yeah, once again as well, with the company, we're trying to make sure he can't just take this space. We're kind of trying to force him to go back at all times. So like we see Nicholas do, what we see Tex do. They're constantly basically blocking off this with the defenders, forcing the opponent just to keep turning back and just make it hard as possible for them to be able to just do whatever they want. But yeah, bad offside trap, which then left the opportunity for the cross. Once he added the ball with Mbappe, he triggered his Rolfo to run as well. So now once again, we have a potential play with our right back. With our right back doing a run. So he's finding the insides, and then he forced it. If he was there with Hullet and just waited a little bit longer, this Rolfo would have been higher up and he could have hit an L1 triangle or like hit into Mbappe and then had a double overload. But yeah, kind of over forced it there. Once again, getting onto his Mbappe and just blocking off these passes and forcing him to have to like take his time and set something up. And then once again, that pass, what we see from left back to left centre back. As soon as this is done for this, Levy's on his left mid as such to be able to try and stop that switch, or be there in a position to stop the switch. Now he's once again, whilst that ball's in the air, he's on his Bateles, dragging him into this spot. So now they can't just go here. And then once Pateles is in a position, he's then going to try and get onto his Hullet to probably cover off Mbappe and pull him in here. And then if he tries to go to his De Jong, he might bring in his Haaland. So we'll see here. Oh. Yeah, so dropped his Hullet. Now he's going to drop his Haaland to cover off this middle pass. And now our team is still in that 4-4-2 shape and making it as compact as possible. If he obviously went towards De Jong with his Hullet, that would have left that gap when he went inside with Cuadrado to go into Mbappe. So that was the reason he dropped Hullet back instead of going and being aggressive with his midfielder. 43rd minute, so he might take his time here. We see actually a really nice creative run again as well. So when the ball switched out here to the left back, he's called his Hullet short, and then he's creative runs his left centre mid wide, so now he has an option to go down. And because of the right mid being stuck in, it's obviously then got to worry about it. And then Hullet comes open, and once again Levy pulling his players back into position, trying to create the double overload in our team, just to make it as again hard as possible and make our opponent like turn back. And then once he make him turn back, he tries to cut off the passing lanes with his strikers of the midfielders, force him to have to go back to the centre backs. And then once he's hit the centre backs, it's usually for a switch. But then as we spoke about, when he hits onto his left centre back, we're usually trying to get there. Yeah, so 45th minute is probably going to take its time for the last attack. Levy's just going to keep trying to pull players in, make it as hard as possible. Cuadrado was offside. We get rewarded from being super patient in defence. But we see that as well. Again, short free kick, and he's triggered his Mendy once again. And he's worked it into his Hullet now, and he potentially has an L1. Oh my god, that's not the narrow. He has a potential L1 triangle over the top. See here, he takes his touches up, because that also was able for him to get the angle for this, as well as then go out to the right side. He's triggered his right centre mid when that came out to when that was switched to Rolfo. He triggered his right centre mid to now give him the run here, and now when he's got into this space here, he can go into Mbappe, and then De Jong is going to create the overload in the back line, but also push this AI from here to probably about here. So as you see, like now just from one quick pause, the back line's now back here, and now leaving a lot more space with it in these ranges. So if we do find obviously Mbappe, if we find Mbappe, De Jong, R9, Haaland, we now have way better spacing just from one trigger. Created a question mark, and it just creates so much more space in an opening. Player lock cancel, which Emre bit on. Now he plays for the knockdown. Ooh. Really good from Levy though. Really good half. So Levy cuts off that passing lane with Haaland, hits it into Haaland. As soon as he hits it into Haaland, his Mbappe's being triggered. And we can either play for this by either using Haaland and R1 dribbling in this space and seeing if it comes open, or when we're on Haaland going back to either one of these midfielders and either pushing down this space, or then, as I said, because we triggered this Mbappe, gives us a set play and now one triangle potential if he doesn't track it. So as you see, he finds the left side, uses just Mbappe to be bait. As soon as he hits his Pateles, he triggers his R9 to run to give him that potential play as well. He finds it and then corner from Levy. I can't remember what one he does.
Especially Emre himself scoring 4 already. Watch Haaland.
I think he wants to do some like penalty spot one. Oof. I think Levy expected Emre to move for the finesse with Pateles, so he reversed the shot.
I'll get your opinion on this in a second, Renzo, depending on what happens, but scoreless is a conversation itself. There's Haaland at the front post and 2 hands on it. I mean, for your pro players, how many corner routines do you have in mind?
So, when this ball was obviously coming out to Cuadrado, Levy is focused on getting Haaland into this spot to cut this off, and then once he's cut that passing off, he's obviously going to try and apply some pressure on the ball with Pateles, forcing once again the opponent to turn back, or seeing if he wants to try and like 1v1 him down the wing.
So like how many?
As I said, once again, just constantly pulling players in, constantly getting across. He kind of decides to cover the inside, but Emre's triggered this, so now that leaves Mendy clear open. So what does Levy do? He gets onto his roll forward, ready for this like through ball, what might go to feet or like to be able to track the run. So really good heads up play from Levy to be able to like be ready to track this run, and he gets rewarded from it. It could have easily gone in favour to Emre, but he was also in position and ready to defend it. Levy, once again, he called Rafael short when he wanted the original option for feet, and then once he's gone back into Lucio, he's then once again triggered this Rolfo to run. So when he goes into here or he switches it, there's a potential play over to the right back as well to run. So see, switch, and you potentially have here, if you don't know, you can hold R1 and square for the precision fit. Like switch as such, or precision, I don't know what precision pass basically. R1 square full power, and then you aim all the way over. You have a potential play, but obviously as we see him do that, but actually I didn't expect Mendy to do the touch, so he does it, but I didn't think he was going to do the touch. So he finds Mbappe, triggers his Rolfo to go down wing, so now he has the overload once again. Taking his time, finds Mbappe again. Once we're into this zone, as we speak about, kind of seeing what can we get either back post or inside, or can we just go back to Rolfo and then rework it, or even pushing it with Mbappe, depending obviously what the situation is. So see here, he's kind of just taking his time. Gets, to be honest with you, he triggered his Rolfo, which then, when he turned back, kind of eliminated his option to be able to recycle the ball. And he kind of got lucky in the sense, to be honest with you, that he got caught a throw in from it. Could have easily been into Emre's favour there. So he's gone edge this time. Works it back to Pateles. Triggered his Rolfo. Offside trap there by Emre. Rolfo is obviously running forward. And then once again, we speak about when you're in this spot here. We're assessing here, here, here are the 3, and maybe even here it's like the 4 options what we can go for. Goes for the first one, which was Haaland, which is obviously the obvious one. Goes for a shot because there was no one in the middle for the knockdown. Taking this time from the corner, once again works it out wide. Step overs. As we speak about zone 1, zone 2. He's in zone 2 currently, kind of assessing like what can he get. Can he find Pateles? Can he find Mbappe? Can he find an R1 square? Can he find the edge? All really depends and kind of on the situation, what your opponent's doing and what you're doing. Levy finds down Mbappe, and I believe what he usually does, what he was doing in the cut, once he gets into this position with Mbappe, he always hits an L1 square to the back post. So we should see an L1 square here to Haaland, freebie, head down, goal. And we see that all the time from Levy, especially in the Pro Open, what we saw it as well. If he hits that like kind of byline with Mbappe, he always will hit an L1 square all the way to the back post. So once again, with his Pateles, he's just constantly trying to cut off this forward passing lane. Not getting on his defenders until he needs to. When he does get on his defenders, it's once like the run from Quadrados are worried he's on the back line. That's when he gets onto his like Mendy and wanting to like defend down as such. But before then, he's like trying to use the midfielders as much as possible. And then if he does go to his defenders before that, it's kind of try and slow the opponent down. Because like now he's forced him back, and now once again we're on our midfielders trying to cut off the passing lanes forward, right? And then even there, he instead of going on to his Mendy instantly, he's still like trying to bring this Viteles back until maybe this threat of like Quadrado going forward became like the bigger threat. So like, if we see, maybe record, not record that. Yeah, back. Oh, it's not letting me pause. Let me hit a refresh real quick. Oh god, advert. Code. Oh. What even is this? Some Harry Potter thing. Okay. Right, let's get back to the magic what Levy's doing instead of all that magic, right? As I said, when he originally got that onto Quadrado, he was seeing if he can pull that Pateles back. But once Quadrado's faced up and Pateles is like maybe too far out, he wants to get onto his Mendy to now cut off this passing lane to Mbappe. Because obviously, what we'll most likely will see is either Emre run down the wing and try and apply some pressure with Quadrado, or try and find the pass into Mbappe and play off Mbappe and trigger Quadrado. So he's gone on to his Mendy to cover obviously Mbappe. So now when he hits it onto Mbappe, he's tight and ready and able to force once again Emre to turn back instead of being able to just keep going forward. Now then once he's turned back, he's then gone onto his midfielder to once again create that double up at the back. Okay, getting onto his Mbappe. Double switch once again, pulling Pateles into this space. Now we got that double up. Now instead of us being defending because usually it's like let's say Pateles is like here, right? Now he's got like a 2v. There we go. Hold up, let me redraw that. Imagine Pateles is not here and actually here, but obviously Levy's pulled him back. If we don't pull back Pateles, we're left in like a 2v, like maybe even a 3v1, like a lot of times, right? But because we pull in Pateles, now we're in like a 2v1 in defense instead of it being like a 1v2, right? So, and that's obviously we want to be. So like as well, like with Quadrado, like now the ball's on Quadrado, right? He kind of only has like one play. It's either to push this or come back, or like push it out to here and then maybe rework it, because we're cutting off this. But if he then decides to keep going down, I would assume we're probably going to go on Mendy to then defend down as well. So we can constantly basically block off everything what Levy wants to. Sorry, not what Levy. Emre wants to do. And as I said, he's going to then turn back, and then as soon as he turns back, Levy's getting onto his Hullet to now cut off these passing lanes to the opponent's R9s and Mbappe's, just to try and make Emre not just get whatever he wants. But I'm assuming timing wise it's not going to be in favour unless they slow it down, which he did. But yeah, now everyone's still in shape as well. We haven't lost any of our like 4-4-2 shape. We can even see here, right, apart from Mendy being a little bit too forward because we kind of bit him just a second ago, we're in this like 4-4-1 sort of position. But it's really hard for our opponent to kind of get whatever he wants in his attack. And then also like our Mendy's, once again, we are cutting off the pass from Quadrado to Mbappe. But what we see here is a potential L1 square. But I think Levy is double tapping triangle once he's in this position. So something what maybe Emre should have done on the reverse for the 2-1 was what Levy just done back to Emre. Let's have a quick look. At full time speed. Let me crack a trigger bar. Let's have a look. So he reworks it wing. He's cutting off this, and then he's double tap. Yeah. So what Emre could have done to stop him, but Levy's quick on it. He double taps his triangle for Van der Sar, ready to stop this cross if it does come in. And you can't shoot straight from here in because it's too far. Like the keeper will always get it. Then a corner to Emre. I think Emre was pretty good at corners. As I say, I know Emre was pretty good at them.
Instantly. Brandon, this is like you literally from that near post, then you might. Emre Yilmaz 2-2 back. Here's the winning team will get 20 consistent, but these.
20 minutes to go here. So hits it into his Mendy. We see our Haaland way too deep where he's in this pocket. We actually want Haaland to be in this pocket, so we trigger Haaland to run to get into that pocket, right? So when we eventually rework it, he's going to be higher up in our team. Play for the switch. Emre's hitting offside. This actually leaves Mbappe open, and Levy's very quick on that to see that. So he player locks Mbappe instantly. Ball roll scoop, hits back to the edge, as we speak about every time. When you get onto this edge, you can either go... Plenty of options. You can either go back to Hullet, you can L1 square here, you can driven past this, you can driven pass over to this. There's so many different options what you can do once you're into this position. It's such like it's like the money spot as such. Went to go to R9 off the ball roll, but his R9 ran off.
4 goals again. 3 of them was Haaland.
So once again, pulling Batello's in to try and cut off that passing lane, get him into that position to make it super compact and hard for our opponent. When he hits it once again, from Hullet inside, from Mendy to inside, this Mendy's been triggered to once again give us an option or a potential play. If we treble up here, we might be able to go up to here, or when we go over back to maybe if we go to Cuadrado, we can even switch it to Mendy who's in a higher position. So you see here, it goes up to Cuadrado, and I spoke about Mendy super high up now. We want to use him. We're not going to use him. We're going to take our time with Cuadrado, player lock, cancel. Triggers his Mbappe to run, kind of create some space for Cuadrado, see if he can dribble around. Really nice dribbling. And then once again, he's in this position. We see it all the time. Is he going to do it again? Is he going to cross it to the back post to Haaland? As I say, every time he gets into this position off the right back, he always does it. And as I say, he did it. It got blocked. I think because Van Dijk's got blocked, but he still wins the header. And then he tries to find off the pass. But yeah, as I said, when he gets into that position, he basically always looks for it. But once again, super important to note, I see so many people do this. Instead of like trying to pull his midfielders back and cutting these passes off, people will try and like run at him with their wing backs. He's not doing that. He's trying to force like the midfielders back to kind of slow Emre down. As soon as I said, once it goes to that right back or right centre back, he's instantly on his right mid here, ready to try and stop the switch if it comes through. Or then soon as Emre turns back and slows things down, he switches off the Mbappe, because it probably means he's going to do some sort of play in between like the lines here. So he wants to then get on Haaland to be able to press here or cut here. And then once it maybe hits Lucio, he's then going to maybe get onto Mbappe again, potentially. So you kind of get onto the player quick to cover things, and then, see, once it hit onto Lucio, he's quickly gone to Mbappe to cover it off. Once he realises he's not going to play it, goes once again to try and press the middle with Haaland and all this. But his main play is to try and cut off the switch or make it hard as possible for the switch if they do find it, to stop the next play. And as I speak about, he doesn't run towards Mendy. He's trying to cut off these passes from Mendy with Mbappe when he's running over to force the opponent to slow things down and to be able to pull players in. Once the Mbappe is in, he tried to get on R9 just to try and drag him in slightly. So when obviously the spacing's a little bit too far for what he wanted, but he's just wanting to be able to so he can apply some pressure there. If R9 wasn't so far apart, it would have been like a really good play. And then first time we've seen a mistake, to be honest with you, from Levi. He's pulled out his wing back, which has left that wing now completely open. And that's the first time we see that from Levi so far. So how is he going to recover it? He was running his Quadrado back, then he swapped off. And now he's back onto Quadrado, just covered down, kind of slow things down, making sure Emre can't basically just get free reigns and running down to this spot. Because obviously if he runs into this, like, this square, he can do multiple plays, either as we spoke about, either like a player lock down line or like passes inside, you know what I mean? There's loads of different plays. So he's trying to, when he's on his Quadrado, he's trying to apply pressure, but to force also and not give up basically line and force like Emre to feel uncomfortable and do what he wants. But Emre does really good, kind of like baiting and not going. But yeah, patience there. Once again, comes through. Super important. So he triggered Quadrado, obviously, when he hit Mbappe. So now here we see Quadrado still running. He wanted to play it through, but got a bad touch, so he couldn't play it. Hits to his right centre back. He switches it. Taking his time. Triggers his Mendy once again. So he goes from left back. As I say, when you move it inside, when you know you're not going to like need to go like back as such, he will trigger that Mendy to run. So when he gets into the left back, his left centre back, he can even go to like Bateles and then rework it here. If his Haaland is standing here, which they usually does, he can also go from like Haaland up to here, or he could just use it as bait and then go over to the right side. There's so many options just from one trigger. What he does. So see here, switch it off to the right side. Taking his time. Trying to play a lock Mbappe for that forward progressive pass, but doesn't get it. Emre going down quick. Ooh, wow. So I think, like, to be honest with you, I think Emre low-key could have been way more aggressive from what we see against Levi. I think Levi, there is like a point where he is going on trying to bring his midfielders back a lot. And like, for example, we could use this, for example. So like here, like Emre was going like really aggressive and really good forward. Once it's like here, like Emre should technically probably like be aware, like, or like assess that Levi is trying to pull his Hullet in here. But let's be real, that's so far, like so much distance. If Emre becomes like way more aggressive, like in this spot with R9, maybe like player locking and Mbappe to drop into that spot so he can get that driven pass, or like step over and into like maybe this range and then forcing the opponent to go on his defender. It would have made that way more uncomfortable for Levi. But Levi's like on his, I say, like he was on his Hullet, pulling him back, and now like Hullet is into this area, being able to block off this. So it's like good play by Levi, but also like Emre should have been a little bit quicker. Once again, when he hit that pass from the right back into the right forward, he triggered his Quadrado. Oh, he lost the ball higher. Oh. Let's have a little look at that corner.
Let's see another prize. Seeded that one. Let's see another corner kick. Emre Yilmaz, is he gonna do it again?
You know where he's going.
Try to get the back post one.
Go for a different corner kick there. I'm surprised.
Takes the wing.
Maybe that's why it didn't work.
Takes his time. Triggered his Quadrado when he hit into that right centre back. So now when he's into this area, so that once again, look, at all this time we have that potential play of Quadrado as well, and then obviously Emre's got to cover it. So now, as well to note, because he came over there, when Levi finds this, he can go here and here, and then when he finds Mbappe, he has so much space because this left back's been pulled over. Now he has a 2v1 as well on the wing. Doesn't use Mbappe, uses it as bait, triggered his Mbappe. Now he still has the wing. Triggered his R9 to run, as we see here. This is going to push the AI off, as we see once again. As soon as R9 basically got into like this kind of range, well, there's two lines. Once Mbappe got into that kind of range, we saw this back line drop off to like this. It's going to start dropping off to this range, where before it was at this range before the before R9 got close from the trigger. Leaving like now. When we go back, we have so much more spacing and timing. Yeah, Owen triangles it out to Quadrado. seeing what it does. And then once again, as we speak about, when you're in this zone, oh my god, once he's, how have I done that 3 times in a row? There we go. Once he's in this zone, we're assessing, can we get something here, or can we get something inside, or whatever, like obviously, or like go back to the edge. Like there's loads of different options as we speak about, but we obviously see Haaland's not at the back post. Our left centre mid's gone there, so we've kind of got to be a little bit patient with Cuadrado. Now he goes back, goes edge to Hullet, finds Cruz. One square, plays on a knockdown. Lovely tiki-taka. So, yeah, let's speak about that again. As we see about, it's like from the middle knockdown. So, let's go back slightly. So, we originally spoke about when he got it out to here, assessing, first of all, like, what do we have? He realises he hasn't got anything. So, what he does, he kind of just takes his time and buys his time and waits for something to develop through still being positive on the ball. Then, once he realises he doesn't really have anything in the middle here, what he does, then he reworks it to the right back, the right back spot, then into the centre mid, into these areas, and then from here we can either like look for a knockdown or a driven pass into the attackers. We obviously, because he's got Team of the Year Haaland, he's going to play for the knockdown. So once he gets it to here with Cruz, plays for the knockdown, and at this point, I'll be real, this is so hard to defend. Like, especially like Levi does so well in this spot, but it's so many different options on what you can do from here. So it's like super like, basically when you hit that centre mid, it's like, it's near enough like game over at a lot of times. So yeah, 3-2 now Levi. Probably deserved to win it, to be honest with you, from the overall play. That's why I pointed this one game out, because I thought Levi played really good in this game. But yeah, some really good like press and covering on the switching from what we saw from Levi. And then also in attack decision makings were also pretty decent.
It's a beautiful combination there. Obviously, but the chance was already
Let's have a look. So Emre tried to do obviously a quick like corner, be aggressive in it. Levi just taking his time, finding Messi, finds inside, takes his time. I think he just kills off the clock. I don't think he scores again. I think he just kills off the clock here, because yeah, 30 seconds. Tracking Davis all the way through with Cuadrado. Now he's also in positions for when it gets up to Davis. Now he's just going to defend, as I said. He wants to defend down this space, make it hard as possible, and then finish it up and wins. Lovely stuff by Levi. They go on to win it from PHN, who will probably VOD review next, but some really nice plays there from Levi. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys liked the video. And way more of this VOD stuff coming soon.